What's going on, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets, powered by FTN, presented by Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you, riding solo. Happy to be back. It's been a while. I know here on Game Plus Network, we've had a few best ball drafts. I had one with Adam Pfeiffer, one with producer George, and they were fun. We rolled through some drafts. George had his very first ever draft. I think he did pretty good. He had some Bucks and he had some Packers. He had actually a lot of Bucks and a lot of Packers as he rolled with those two stacks. But we talked about stacking. We talked about best ball. And as we kind of turn the page here officially into June, I know I've been away for a little bit, these live shows. And if you are hanging out live with us at our FTN Network YouTube page, you know the drill. We appreciate when you smash the like button. If you have any comments, any questions, you can leave them there. Always circle back here before, puck drop. Of course, there is no puck drop tonight in the NHL. But the main slate, right? The 7 Eastern slate around the diamond. We have some MLB props and some MLB picks. The Angels lose yet again. 13 straight losses. Here's a loss. Here's a loss. Here's a loss. Just dishing them out. Joe Madden, he's done. Mike Trout, he looks like he's done yesterday. Had a home run and a double and then left with a groin injury. We're going to talk Red Sox and Angels here a little bit and dive into a couple MLB props and MLB picks. But if you are hanging out live, you have any questions, please leave them there. If you're watching the replay, FTN Fantasy, FTNBets.com on our YouTube page, you can always leave a comment or a question there as well. Always circling back to answer those questions. Season-long betting, you name it, we will address that. And if you're listening on iTunes and Spotify, well, also appreciate you smashing like buttons over there, rating, reviewing, subscribing. It would do us a huge solid. But back to live shows here. Pretty good. Getting in the swing of things again. So no hockey, unfortunately, right? But we still we could preview in just a second. We'll take a look at an early look at maybe the Rangers and the Lightning. Going to happen tomorrow, Game 5. But it is Game 3 tonight in the NBA Finals. The series shifts from Golden State to Boston, all knotted up at a game apiece. It's been a weird playoff, I feel like. I mean, there's been some good games, but there's been a lot of blowouts. Game 1 was a blowout, and if you were watching the game like me, kind of turned away at the end of the third quarter, thinking, this game is over. The Celtics went on a massive, massive run, I think 40-16 or something silly like that in the fourth to win by double digits. They stole one, got home court, but then it feels like if you're looking at momentum, and my old teacher would say it's not a thing in sports. It is not a thing. It's actually just not a thing. Think about it physically. It's just momentum. It's just not there in sports. But if it was there in sports, you got to feel like Golden State got it back after they dummied the Celtics in Game 2. And again, just another massive run kind of at the end of the second, certainly into the third quarter for the Warriors to even up that series at a game apiece. We're going to break that one down in just a little bit. We got some props, some prize picks plays, taking a look at just these two superstars. I know there's value in some of the low-key guys, like maybe Marcus Smart. I'm certain he's going to bounce back today. Klay Thompson's really struggled. I'm seeing a lot of people just riding the under. He's going to break out at some point, right? Steph said, what do you feel, when you look at Klay, your splash brother? What do you tell him when you're going through some of those struggles? He says, just keep shooting, right? These guys will figure it out eventually. It could be a big Klay Thompson night, but we'll dive into some NBA stuff. We can, if you got it, George, we got producer George, producer Tyler, both producers. I mean, who's this guy? I get two producers here today. If you have the Rangers and the Lightning early look, we could take a look at that. So last night, the Lightning evened things up. Got a couple things right in the bet tracker. Lightning in the under. Nikita Kucherov shot props. You had Mika Zibanejad shot props. Got a little bit greedy looking for shot props from Hedman and Stamkos. Needed one more each from them. Didn't get it. It's kind of riding the trend with Adam Fox, points and power play points. I believe he had an 8-game point streak last night. That was snapped. They gave him a power play assist and they took it away. It was the right call. I think they gave it to Frankfurt Toronto. But we do have Game 5 with the Rangers there as home dogs plus 120. The Lightning at minus 129 in the total at 5.5. And Igor Shesterkin's been pretty solid on home ice. He's just really struggled away from MSG. I don't want to put that loss on him, but, I thought the Rangers played pretty good again last night, and Tampa didn't have that full press that they've had through the first couple games of the series. They still have heavily outplayed the Rangers at 5-5. I believe so. They have the edge in shot attempts and shots, high nature chances, scoring chances, the expected goal for right at 5-5 per 60. It's according to Natural Stat Trick. So they have been pretty good. The Rangers special teams has been absolutely amazing throughout these playoffs. But now we have a best of 3 with the Rangers having home ice. I don't know if Braden Point's going to come back if he's close, but that would certainly be a big boost. And I know Sammy Blais on the other side is starting to practice with the Rangers. Remember remember him? Remember that trade? Pavel Buchnevich used to be a member of the New York Rangers, and he was flipped to St. Louis for Sammy Blais, and Blais started off all right, and then he suffered that injury, and, they're just deep into the season where it's kind of surprising. Maybe potentially we could see him make an appearance here, and I think that would be a little bit of a boost. Now, he's not going to get like 10. I think he probably gets like 7-8 minutes a game, maybe just on the bottom 6 somewhere, but, not a bad little player. I think he can add some punch if that does happen for them. So that's it. No real other hockey talk here. The Avs they punched their ticket in the Stanley Cup Finals. They're just hanging around. I think at the end of the day, they're going to have more games off between series than games played, right? They're 12-2. They had the lengthy 8-day layoff, I believe, after they took care of the Preds. And now they're just hanging out. I don't think, now that we know this series tonight, tomorrow we'll go 6. I think the earliest that the Stanley Cup Finals will begin the 15th, and I think it's going to go 7, Rangers and Bolts. It was what I had before the series started, 7, Tampa and 7. 18th, I believe, if that went 7, then we would see the Stanley Cup Finals 18th. That's a long time off for the Avs, but man, Colorado looks awesome. They really do look fantastic. Oh, another thing that we're going to talk about here today is going to be a lot of football because there's no hockey. That's basically it. We'll have some picks and some props on tomorrow's show. We'll dive into that. Maybe take a look at some early futures. Conn Smythe. I mean, the Avs are favored to win the Cup, and Cale Makar is favored to win the Conn Smythe, which he should be. And then you got Nathan McKinnon just behind him as well. But yesterday, as we said on Dangle Bet Selly with Eric Young on Game Plus Network as well, and we'll arrive on Thursday at 5 Eastern over at Game Plus Network, is that if you wanted to jump in the Lightning, now was the time. They were 5-1. Vasilevsky had pretty decent odds, I think 6-1 to win the Conn Smythe, and he was phenomenal last night. The big boys are starting to play against Stammer with the goal yesterday, Kucherov with the goal as well. Lightning been pretty good on home ice. The Rangers have been pretty good on home ice. It may just be one of those series like we've already seen in the playoffs with the Hurricanes and the Rangers earlier, and the Bruins as well. The Hurricanes were one of those teams that just couldn't find a way to win on the road. Again, another thing that we will talk about, because it will be heavy football kind of the rest of the way, right? As I said, the calendar turns June. It is football. It's draft season. Best ball drafts are happening. Our rankings over at FTNFantasy.com. We have the number 1 ranker in the game, Jeff Ratcliffe. His rankings are over at FTNFantasy.com. We got lots of best ball content over there for you. Even on our YouTube page, we've run through some targets, some of our favorite stacks, each position, kind of look at some values, and then we have those couple of drafts that we've done live, and we'll continue to do them because I want to, now that news is happening, you're really going to see people overreact. Like Treylon Burks, he's dealing with asthma at camp. Just drop him down the board a couple rounds. I think that those kind of things will happen. It's silly. I've seen people. Twitter is a bad place. I mean, it really is. It's not for everybody. I kind of have to step away sometimes. I tweeted something yesterday about the Oilers, and then everyone was just all over me. I'm a big Leafs fan, apparently. Those that know me know that isn't true, right? I started thinking about liking the Leafs, and then I can't even speak. So, but Twitter is an awful place. You see people ripping Leonard Fournette. Yeah, he's Cartman. He's a little big bone here coming into camp. I don't want to say he's Eddie Lacy from a few years ago, and I remember the conversations at FST Live. Remember that? FNTSY with an Ashley Docking shout out. I remember talking about some of those reports with Eddie Lacy. It's all anybody wants to dive into. So people are overreacting a little bit. A lot of football talk. We will run through some of the news and, take it with a grain of salt. But we will start our NFL team previews today. And we were going to start with the defending Super Bowl champion Los Angeles Rams. We'll take a look at the Rams. Of course, Aaron Donald, a big contract extension. Cooper Kupp, the number just set records last year. We'll take a look at them from a betting standpoint. They're 11-1 to win the Super Bowl. They are favored to win the NFC West. We'll take a look at their win total, kind of roll through their games, project some wins. It's still fairly early. And then we'll also dive into some of their fantasy assets. Now, Allen Robinson, a member of the Rams. Robert Woods is gone. They stole Bobby Wagner from the division rival Seattle Seahawks. They did lose some pieces defensively. Von Miller, Andrew Whitworth on the line, retired. I think he could come back. You never know. Maybe run it back. Aaron Donald came back. So who knows? Maybe Andrew Whitworth will as well. We'll talk about the Rams, and we'll take a look at round 5 of high stakes leagues, NFFC leagues. Take a look at a couple players going in that round. Amari Cooper, one of them. Deshaun Watson in the news. I don't think this guy's going to play this year, and I don't think he should play this year, and I think it really, really will affect Amari Cooper's position there. Daily Handle in the house, Leafs fan. All right, people just chirping for attention. We'll take a break. We're about 10 minutes in. We have a lot to get to here, and we will start by breaking down Game 3 of the NBA Finals. It's Celtics and Warriors talking here next. Keep her locked. Welcome back in Mean Streets Live on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney here with you. Daily Handle in the house. I know he's a big NBA fan, and I know he is on the Warriors as we try to dive into maybe some successful props here at FTN Network. First, before we bring them up, let's look into the game tonight. It is Game 3. The series shifts now from Golden State over to Boston. And like I said off the top, just really hoping to see a tight ball game here. Let's see a tight ball game. The Celtics are favored here, so minus 157. Let me just get the live odds here. I believe they're 3.5 favorites here, the Boston Celtics. Yes, they are. So I think we're going to see a close game. So if we're following trends, you know, it's unlikely. I mean, the entire NBA playoffs, there's been a lot of blowouts. There haven't been a lot of close games, and certainly game one was close at moments, but then the Celtics kind of came away with it in the fourth quarter, and then the Warriors took over in the third quarter as well. We saw some struggles from Marcus Smart in game 2, and we saw some heroics from like Al Horford in game 4, knocking down a bunch of trays, and Derek White kind of having a career day, I suppose, a career playoff run for him in that contest as well. So you are on the Warriors in the series, but I think the Celtics win tonight is what Daily Handle says, and I agree with you. I am on the Celtics here. They've been bouncing back throughout the entire playoffs. I mean, they made quick work of the Nets early. But they were bouncing back and forth, with the Bucks. After a loss, it seemed to be just getting a win. And the same thing with the Heat, right? Like they lose to the Heat, then they get a win. They lose to the Heat, they get a win, and they just ran through that trend. And I think that will continue. But I really like this team defensively. I'm a big fan. We've been talking about them all year long, what they can do defensively. The Warriors are, kind of struggling. We're not seeing Andrew Wiggins have the same sort of series when he was going at Luka Doncic in the last round with the Mavs. And, we're not really seeing the shots fall from Clay. And like we said earlier off the top, it could happen at any moment for Clay Thompson for him to heat up, and he's not going to struggle. I feel like he'll have a decent game here today. Like I'm seeing a lot of unders on his 18.5 points, 19.5. It just takes a couple threes, right? A couple trays. But I'm looking at the two stars that you just saw on the board there, and Steph Curry and Jason Tatum. Let's start with Curry. I mean, these are from Prize Picks, and just a friendly reminder, prizepicks.com, simple over or under on a player's prop or their fantasy score, and you don't have to go perfect. You see the promo code right there. Yeah, FTN, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. We have a free pick tracker over at ftnbets.com, actually ftndaily.com, excuse me, and everyone's given Prize Picks, and you can mix and match across all the sports. Of course, you can do a same game parlay in the NBA, but in the NHL, I find this is really, really great to see the Prize Picks plays, because you can just take one or two hockey and then mix in with some MLB and some NBA if you want. And they're up pretty early. So you saw Steph there, the 4.5 threes. He has cleared this number in both games here, in game one and in game two. And I know it's a high number for Steph, but 5 for 12, 7 for 14. He's averaging 13 threes per game, like his attempts. I don't think that's going to slow down. This is a guy who's, I mean, when I say this, he wants it, obviously he wants it, but when the Warriors won those championships, he wasn't really the focus. Andre Iguodala, MVP. Kevin Durant, MVP. Steph has looked really good in these two games. He's jacking up a lot of shots. He has had at least 5 threes in 4 of his last 6 games, and averaging those 13 attempts from beyond the arc. And then there's Jason Tatum here for assists. Game 1, obviously a little bit of an outlier when he had 13 dimes. He didn't really do a whole lot there in game 2. But this is a guy who is really just been right there. At least 5 assists in 12 of the 13 W's that the Celtics have. And I think the Celtics are going to win this game. I think they're going to win on their home court. The place is going to be rocking. They're all going to be over Draymond Green. Like, it's going to be, I think, a really good atmosphere. But Jason Tatum in W's, he kind of distributes the ball. I do think that he can have another 28 points if you want to take the over 27.5 over at Prize Picks. I think that's a decent play as well. But I think he'll distribute. The Rock averaged 5.6 assists in the series against Miami, 5.4 assists in the series against Milwaukee, and he had at least 6 dimes in the last 4 games of that Milwaukee series when he was moving the ball around and they were winning those games towards the end of that series. And in the first round, I mean, that was a little bit of a cakewalk against the Brooklyn Nets, but he averaged 7.3 dimes per game in that series as well. So I am going with Tatum. Also, another guy that I like is Derek White. Derek White over 11.5. I got it here off to the side. Yes, 11.5 points. I think that's pretty solid as well. Now, I don't feel like he's going to have another, 20-point performance, which is what he had in game 1, 21 points. I mean, he was 6 for 11, and he has been shooting around the 11 shots, right? And in game 2, he was 4 for 13, didn't shoot the ball all that well, but still covered this number at 11.5. So he is actually cleared in 5 of his past 6 games. He didn't shoot the ball all that well against the Heat in game 7, but he has been right there and around that number. And I think he's another good play over at prizepicks.com. So again, friendly reminder, ftndaily.com. You can mix and match across all the sports. It's a simple over or under on a player's prop. For those 2 picks, you would have to go perfect. You'd have to go 2 for 2, and it would pay out 2-1. But if you added a third, you could go maybe 2 for 3. You could still earn yourself a profit. You added a fourth, you can go 3 for 4, a flex play. You can afford to get one wrong. Of course, your odds come down a little bit, but how many times have you, for me personally, 3 for 4s, 4 for 5s, you get greedy, but you get a little bit of a profit there if you just get one wrong. But I think we can roll with those 2. 2-1 over at prizepicks.com, promo code FTN. So that's it for the NBA talk. See something else pop up, maybe we'll dive into it, but I'm going to really switch gears here now. I think the Celtics win. I think they take a 2-1 series lead. I have Golden State winning this series in 7. I think it will go the distance. Come on, basketball gods. Give us a buzzer beater. Give us an overtime or something. Let's see it happen today. Celtics win. Tatum, 6 assists. Curry, 5 trays. MLB talk here next on Mean Streets. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back in Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. So lots of afternoon action around the diamond. Make sure you're setting those lineups. Taking a look into some later games. There's some pretty good matchups. I mean, the Mets and the Padres, both teams are absolutely rolling me. Tino's Mets, my goodness, they are playing fantastic. Both New York teams, the Yankees and the Mets, can't seem to lose. They're getting the chucking from the Yankees. The bats have been really good for the Mets, and they're doing this right now without Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer, who suffered another injury. I thought I heard that on the radio on the long drive, like a 22-hour drive. I just listened to a sports talk radio, and it was absolutely fantastic. Put a smile on my face. But I think he got his hand bit by a dog, Max Scherzer, but he's already out for a lengthy period of time with the oblique, so I think he should be fine. But, man, a lot has happened in Major League Baseball, since I've been gone, and it's just a lot of L's from the Los Angeles Angels. Joe Madden done, fired. What is happening? I mean, expectations pretty high, and I think Madden, he just does some weird things. I think, he has the respect, clearly. He's won the World Series with the Cubbies, and he took the Rays there, and the Angels. He was on the 2002 Angels roster with Mike Scioscia at the time, who was the manager of the squad. And so, back in LA and his roots, and I part of me thinks, I was a little shocked to see him go so quickly, so soon, but it just goes to show, like, the expectations are high with the Angels, even though they've made the playoffs once with Mike Trout. That's it. That's the reason. You got Mike Trout, 3 AL MVPs. You got Shohei Ohtani, AL MVP last year. There's really no excuse for the squad, not to make the playoffs this year, considering they've brought in some pieces, like Noah Syndergaard has been fine. Some of the pitchers that started off really strong are starting to come back down to earth. It's part of it. Same, the bullpen is struggling a little bit. Trout went through a massive slump, the longest slump of his career through this losing streak, 0-for-26 at the plate. And then yesterday, with the manager switch, and Nevin's going to take over, and it's the first ever former first overall pick to manage. I saw that last night on the broadcast. Thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, Trout started off with a bomb, which was the first homer that the Angels have had in June. And you remember when we were talking about them in May, the most homers in all of baseball. So they've really kind of cooled off there at the plate. Rendon's hurt again. Now Trout left the game yesterday with an injury. David Fletcher's hurt. The injuries are starting to pile up, but expectations pretty high. Certainly the Angels want to make the playoffs with the extra, wild card. There's really no excuse, but they're on a middle of a massive losing skid here, and the way that they're losing, I mean, there's no Angels in the outfield. Guys are like losing the balls in the light. They're running into walls. There's like off the leg and left, like double plays yesterday. They could have got out of so many innings yesterday, and it was just struggles across the board. So I've been picking on them. Part of it's like, hey, you see this team firsthand. I saw the Habs firsthand. We, were really successful this year betting against the Habs and puck line and things like that. And I think you just continue to ride this trend out. So Red Sox and Angels here today. And, doesn't look like Mike Trout's going to play. Originally, I was liking the over, and it's at 8.5. As you see there, the Angels are home dogs here at plus 132, and the Red Sox there at minus 149. Nathan Eovaldi, he struggled with the long ball at times. There was one start he gave up 5 dingers, but he's got the 3-2 record, a 3.41 ERA, and then Reed Detmers. So that's Detmers there, 2-2, 4.20 ERA. The Rook had a no-hitter earlier this year. He's had some moments, and he's been pretty decent at home. He's got the 3.10 ERA in 29 home innings, but he has just really, struggled with command, and he has struggled with the long ball overall. I mean, you don't see some of the numbers there, but he's walking nearly 3 per 9 innings, and he's only striking out 6.20 per 9 innings, and the xFIP is a little bit higher there. He's checking in with the fly ball rate that's not where you want it. It's sitting at 44% right now, and 44% for his career. This Red Sox team is starting to swing a hot bat, right? Remember, we were kind of, and George is sitting there probably with a huge smile on his face, right? I mean, I know that he is. We're kind of picking on the Red Sox, and clearly, I mean, that division is rolling. The Jays are hot right now. You got the Rays. I mean, they're still kind of battling for 4th, right? But they're in a playoff spot in the wild card with the Jays and with the Rays. That they've started to heat up. It all kind of started with Trevor Story, and he was really cooking offensively. But then Rafael Devers has been, unbelievable this season. And they have a lot of guys inside the top 10 as well in hits against righties. And I know that Detmer's in here as the southpaw. Yeah, smiling, absolutely smiling. Yeah, cautiously. But I do like the Red Sox to win here today. At some point, the Angels are going to win a ball game. I think so. But with no Trout, they're already kind of behind the 8 ball here. I'm looking at some of their, like JD Martinez, Trevor Story. These are guys that typically, they smash lefties, and this is kind of what I'm looking at. And when I gave this board to George, I didn't find any Boston Red Sox props, and now they're up. So I'm gonna walk through this with you guys and kind of get my thinking here. So JD Martinez over 1.5 total bases at -105. That is one that I like as well. And then I kind of shy away from the Devers lefty there, but I don't mind him. But Trevor Story, like, let's ride this out. He had a couple nice hits yesterday. He's +105 over 1.5 total bases. So those are the two Boston bats that I am taking a look at, and I do think that Nate Eovaldi will maybe give up some long shots. I know that a couple of these guys, man, George, on the fly, giddy up, man. And Tyler, right? You guys are so good to me. But those are the two Red Sox I'm taking a look at. And I think they're both in play for home runs as well. And, home runs is not like, if you're just kind of new to betting and treat a unit, say we treat a unit as $1, let's just say that, I would put $1 on the two props there, JD Martinez and Trevor Story over 1.5 total bases. A shout out to Prize Picks, who has hits plus walks. A walk is not a total base, but over there, and you can't see that on like DraftKings or FanDuel, you don't see a lot of hits plus walks. So you kind of cover yourself a little bit, with Detmers and how kind of shaky he is with command. He could walk a couple guys, get into a bad situation. All of a sudden, bases are loaded, walking in guys. Probably going to see that here today. So Prize Picks is something to really consider. But those two hits plus walks or total bases, 1.5 plus money for Story, -105 for JD Martinez. So if you just put $1 on that, or if you put $1.05, you get a full $1 back, that -105 there. But if you wanted to roll with a home run, maybe 0.25 units, it's kind of how I put it in the bet tracker. So it'd be like 25 cents. However you want to treat a unit, it could be whatever you want. Like I said, it could be $1, it could be 10 cents, it could be $1, it could be $10, 100, whatever you want. High roller, daily handle, putting a G down on that? I don't think you are, but you get the gist of it. I would put fewer units down on the home runs because they're a little bit unlikely. But again, for Reed Detmers here, this is a guy that has struggled with the long ball. We have a history of success with Trevor Story and with JD Martinez against Southpaws for sure. And also, like I said, on the other side of that game, I wanted to just throw out Jared Walsh. Jared Walsh, I'm always interested in him when he's going up against a righty and he's going up against Nate Eovaldi, who has struggled with the long ball. I know the start is in Anaheim and not in Boston. It's a little bit more of a pitcher-friendly ballpark there, but I think he is in play. 1.5 total bases as well for him is plus money, +120, I believe. And then a home run would just be a little bit of a long shot there at -125. I wanted to give some love to Nestor Cortez. Now that his strikeout prop, I was actually going to guess that it was going to be 7.5. And it's actually 6.5 at +120. I saw that over at DraftKings. I'm interested. I'm really intrigued. I like this guy quite a bit. He's got 68 punchouts and 60 innings. He's striking out 10.2 batters per 9 innings. He's got a smashing 1.50 ERA. Now, his strain rate is super high. It's sitting at 88.6%. Strain rate is just left on base. And the reason it's that high is because the guy's got a double-digit swinging strike percentage. He's striking guys out. He's nasty. He's filthy, right? So he's getting those punch-outs. But the xFIP is a little bit higher because that strain rate is high. League average is right around 70%. So maybe that will normalize. Maybe it won't. Sometimes you don't see it normalize until the next year. I'm sure it will, maybe in the second half. That's why you see a 1.50 ERA and a 3.08 xFIP. He also has a bit of a fly ball rate, but he's only given up 4 home runs. He's got to start here against the Minnesota Twins here today. And the Twins are playing really good baseball. They're atop the AL Central. They're getting offense, from the top of the order. Byron Buxton was hot. To start the season, he went through a little bit of a cold spell. Carlos Correa hasn't really, got to, where he could get to his potential. But the Twins are playing really good baseball, but kind of in the middle of the pack when it comes to strikeout percentage against Southpaws at 20%. But look at some of these starts from Cortez. I mean, 7 strikeouts in his last outing. He had 5 against the Rays. He had 7 against the White Sox. He had 7 against the White Sox again. He had 11 in the start before that. He had 12 against Baltimore. He played Cleveland where he had 8. So this is a number that he's getting to. I like it. I like it at 6.5 at plus money. I was diving around to see, on the fly, just in the commercial break, if we could get a 5.5 anywhere else. but it would be juiced anyways. I think we take a shot at the plus money here for Nestor Cortez over 6.5 punch-outs, and that is all the baseball talk for now. I'm glad we got to that. George and Tyler, appreciate you guys. What have we got here? I wasn't checking out. Oh, no chance 1K. Kidding me? Haha. Mike Omelon shout out. That's where I was standing in his wedding. Always a really good time. As a Red Sox fan, he may watch this segment and sit back and smile as well with George. Always puts everything he has on the Sox game. Well, it's rolling for him right now. It is absolutely working for him. I think we ride some trends out. A lot of action. FTNdaily.com, free pick tracker over there. FTNbets.com. Guys are giving MLB picks. I see Josh Gross is over 20 units. MLB Dream we've had on the show over 20 units. And I'm flirting on the positive side of things as well. Hopefully we can keep things going here. Use the promo code Meaney if you're looking to be part of the FTN family. It will get you NFL picks, get you NHL picks, PGA picks. We're going to talk US Open. Not in the next block, next week. And maybe we'll get Alex Blickel because he's doing some cool things. Speaking of cool things, the Los Angeles Rams, what a team. Super Bowl champs, 11-1 to do it all again. Can they? We'll dive into their schedule, some of the additions, some of the subtractions. They made some moves recently. They've made some noise as well. We're going to look at them from a betting standpoint and also from a fantasy football standpoint. We'll take a look at their weapons, their targets, where they're going in drafts, the backfield between Darrell Henderson and Cam Akers, Matthew Stafford. What's he going to look like with a guy like Allen Robinson on his squad? What is Allen Robinson going to look like with a real quarterback in Matthew Stafford and a real head coach in Sean McVay? Yeah, I think you got to be pretty excited if you're a Robinson fan, if you're a dynasty owner, and if you're a Los Angeles Rams fan. I'm sure you've been smiling all off season long. A lot of football talk here to wrap up Mean Streets. Keep her locked. Welcome back in. We're going to start doing our NFL team previews here on Mean Streets. I had a guest lined up. It's a surprise. I think that I can get him next week, and maybe we roll through this again, or maybe we just kind of dive into another team, but he covers the Los Angeles Rams, so that's okay. We're going to dive into this. It's just a little bit funner to kind of, when you read off the schedule with somebody else, like, is this a win? Is this a loss? Maybe you get some differences. Maybe we'll, maybe we can give a mic to Tyler in the future, or George, kind of to chime in behind the scenes, like to break the tie of things like that when we do talk the division and just the schedule. But we'll still roll through with this. The Los Angeles Rams is where we're going to start. The defending Super Bowl champion Rams. As you see here, the win total at 10.5. We have them as favorites to win the NFC West. And then you see a 5-1 to win the NFC and 11-1 to win the Super Bowl yet again, which we did have. Let's, give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back last year. Tino and I, we did have those Los Angeles Rams at 10-1 to win the Super Bowl in our bet tracker after week 3. Cheers. Oh, nice. I'm going to go this way. Oh, wait. Oh, bats. Opposite side. So it was after week 3 I'd seen enough. I think I may have overreacted a little bit when they beat the Bucks, and I think Sean McVay did as well. Remember how amped he was, and then Deshaun Jackson had that touchdown through the tunnel, and then McVay is just like running after him. I'd seen enough. I had really seen enough. Sean McVay with a capable quarterback, Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp was balling out at the time. The Triple Crown, touchdowns and yards and receptions, an absolute monster performance from him. And they really did it without a run game. This was a team that was inside the top 10 in offense and yards and points per game, but rushing yards are in the bottom 10. Of course, Akers ruptured his Achilles before the season started. They brought in Sony Michel, and it was a Sony Michel backfield with Darrell Henderson. And then we saw Akers miraculously return. I mean, that was really, really special to see him come back, just completely unheard of. What a beast. Now, he wasn't super efficient throughout the playoffs, but let's be honest. He went up against some really, really tough teams. I mean, you see the Bucks there, and Daily Handel's talking about the Bucks and, going to the Super Bowl. And he went up against the Arizona Cardinals, a top 10 run defense, the 49ers, a top 10 run defense, and the Bucks, we all know how good they have been at stopping the run over the past couple of seasons. We'll get to Akers a little bit more in the next block and take a look at his ADP and whatnot, but they didn't really have a run game, but Matthew Stafford was just slinging it, and he was slinging it to Cooper Kupp. It wasn't a whole lot of Robert Woods. Tyler Higbee kind of ate a little bit, and we saw moments from Van Jefferson, and then Odell Beckham Jr. was a big signing as well, and he was fantastic, just fantastic in the playoffs. You see the record there, 12-5. This 10.5 win total, I got to double check because, and it really is, and it's plus money here, and free prop shop, parlay calculator over at ftmbets.com. You don't got to go surfing around. It's just right there for you. Here's a little example. FanDuel's got it at plus 100, BetMGM plus 100, PointsBet minus 105, DK at minus 110, 10.5. I mean, the Rams won 12 games last year, and I think they have a better roster. I think they do. Aaron Donald's back. I mean, that's the key. Was it not? Like, they're missing some guys on the offensive line. Andrew Whitworth is, he's probably not going to be back. It sounds like he's retiring. He's not going to come back. That's a loss for sure. Von Miller, they had him for like a minute, right? It is a loss. He was good in the playoffs, but having Donald back is the key here. Listen to these numbers if you weren't familiar with what happened and he signed the extension here. So $40 million raise over the next 3 years. First non-quarterback to eclipse $30 million per season all time, $95 million guaranteed over the 3 years, 31-year-old future Hall of Famer. I think for sure, for me, the best defensive player I've ever seen. My goodness. I mean, this guy is an absolute game changer. So they're able to bring him back. Cooper Kupp, they're looking on restructuring his contract. And then Allen Robinson, I think, is a really nice addition. And again, we'll get into him a little bit more, but he is leaving Chicago where it was just so dysfunctional over the past couple seasons. No head coach Matt Nagy didn't seem like he knew what he was doing, dealing with very poor quarterback play. I know that, there was some contract talk last year. We'll say that. He and the Bears weren't on the same page. He was dealing with some injuries. Did he want to force it? I'm speculating, but did he want to force it through some of these injuries, knowing the Bears didn't want to give him the money that he felt like he deserved and he can get it maybe in the offseason? He didn't force it. Darnell Mooney had a pretty decent season with the poor quarterback play in Chicago that I'm talking about, but dealing with a rookie quarterback in Justin Fields who wasn't great at times. I mean, when his first start came in there, they didn't even run any motion with him. They didn't know what to do and play to his strengths. It was just an absolute crapshoot in Chicago. And the previous 2 seasons before that, Allen Robinson was a top 10 wide receiver. Now, is he going to be a guy that gets 150 targets in LA? No. But he's not going to get top coverage with Cooper Kupp there. And he's not going to be the number 1, but I think he may be the best number 2 wide receiver on a team in the NFL. I really do believe that way. Believe that this division is theirs to lose. The Niners are still pretty good. They're going to turn the page to Trey Lance, who's going to go through some motions, struggle as a rookie quarterback. The Los Angeles Rams or the Seattle Seahawks they have the lowest win total in the NFL at 5.5. No Russell Wilson. Mentioned off the top of the show, Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner and Russell Wilson were drafted together in the same draft. I mean, it's got to be for the Seahawks. This is a complete just, oh no, what are we in for this season? The line is not good. The team is not good. Who's playing quarterback? Geno Smith, Drew Lock. Like, those are two layup games, I believe, for the Rams, even inside the division that they'll get. Arizona's going through some things as well. They lost Chandler Jones on defense. DeAndre Hopkins is suspended for the first 6 games of the season. They brought in Marquise Brown, who I like. He's going to play with his former quarterback in Kyler Murray, but there's a lot of question marks when it comes to this Arizona team. So I really like the Rams, and I think we can all agree here that the NFC is very weak. It is top heavy. You saw Daily Handle's comment there. It's Rams or Bucks. It is tough to repeat. Everything has to go right for you to get a championship. The Bucks brought everybody back, everyone back, the full band. Absolutely agree. The under 5.5. I don't think they win 3 games. But they brought everybody back, and then injuries piled up. It is very tough to repeat, but I think that's pretty good value for the Rams at 10.5 wins to get to 11. Tough division, not as tough as last year as we're talking about. And the NFC being so top heavy, Green Bay took a step back with Devontae Adams. Plus, they haven't been able to win playoff games over the past few years with Adams on the roster. Aaron Rodgers getting a little bit older, then really replace him. Christian Watson, fine. The Bucks, great. Rams, great. Who else are we talking about here in the NFC of teams that maybe I respect? Cowboys, I think they're worse off. The Eagles are okay. They're on the rise. I think they may be the best division and best team inside that division. Both of those teams are probably like 10-win teams. Washington's no good. The Giants are no good. Seahawks are not going to be great. The Vikings got issues. The Bears got issues. The Lions are on the rise, but really they're a 3-win team from last year. I think maybe they can double that. The Saints feel like they're competitive, but I don't know. Are they? They got a really good defense. Who knows? Alvin Kamara could miss some time to start the season. Who's the quarterback? Jameis Winston. Michael Thomas hasn't played in a couple years. No Sean Payton. There's a lot of question marks. The Falcons are not great. The Panthers are not great. The NFC, they just have a clear path. They have a clear path, I feel like, to a bye or certainly home field advantage until the NFC Conference Championship game. So I think it's pretty good value to jump on them. And let's walk through their schedule. If you don't want to jump on them now, you may get them after week 1 when they open up against the Bills. If that's a loss, the markets overreact a little bit. Maybe you can get 12-1, 13-1. But they start off the season pretty tough. Buffalo to kick us off. Let's give them a loss. I think they win, but let's give them a loss. Let's be conservative here. Let's give them a loss, but I think they win, right? Buffalo's a really good team. They are favorites to win the Super Bowl, but I do believe that the Rams, at home, I still like their squad. Let's give them a loss. We'll just give them a loss. Falcons week 2, that's a W. At Arizona week 3, that's a W. We could give them a loss week 4 in San Fran. We could give them that loss. It's Monday Night Football. They went on a 5 or 6 game losing streak against Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers. Finally got their number in the playoffs to go to the Super Bowl. But it has been a team that has struggled against the Niners. McVay has struggled against Shanahan. So we'll be kind. We'll give them a loss. What are we at here? We're at 2-2. Dallas at home, that's a tough one. I give them the benefit of the doubt that they beat the Cowboys. I like the roster there. It could be 2-3. I give them 3-2. Carolina. So that's a win, week 6. We got 4-2 there. Then the bye week, got San Fran out of the bye. I got to give them the benefit of the doubt out of the bye against the Niners. So they get the split against San Fran. There's a win. What are we at again? I might have to write this down. We're at 5-2 here. Yeah, 5-2. Tampa, let's give them a loss into Tampa. Maybe they lose against the Bucks. We saw them play in the playoffs. They did have their number against the Bucks. They beat them. They beat them twice last year. We'll give them the loss. It's in Tampa. What are we at here? We're at 5-3. Then home to the Cardinals. I give them another win. They would have DeAndre Hopkins back there, but I'm giving them another win. They're at 6-3. They beat the Saints in New Orleans. They're at 7-3. They'll lose to KC in KC. They're at 7-4. They beat Seattle 7-5. They beat Vegas 7-6 in Green Bay. I think they win. I think they beat Green Bay. I'm going to give them the win. Lambeau's tough. It's December 19th. It'd be tough, but I think that they can get it done there. So we're already at 9 wins. We'll give them a lot. We'll give them a loss to the Broncos. They have a stretch where they go Broncos, Chargers, and Seattle down the stretch. So they'll probably win 2 of those 3 games. They're definitely going to win the one in Seattle, week 18. They may be just resting guys, kind of locked in maybe to a division or to potentially a bye. give them the one loss against the Broncos, and maybe they go in to LA and they win that one. So what do we got here? We got one win against Atlanta, 2 against Arizona, 3 against Dallas, 4 against Carolina. We got 1 against San Fran, 5. We gave them another win against Arizona, 6. The Saints is 7. Seattle is 8. Vegas is 9. We gave them Los Angeles is 10. And then Seattle's at 11. So it's close. It's a pretty, when you roll through that, that's why I kind of wanted somebody to be here with me to kind of roll through that together. But when you do roll through that with somebody else, you always come across like, that's a pretty good line. You had them just 1 above, under, or 1 above. I got them as an 11-win team. The schedule is tough, like we walked through. I think they win the NFC West at plus 140, and I think that they get back. I really do. It feels like a sucker bet, but I like their squad better than the Packers, and I like their squad better than the Bucks. The Bucks lost some guys this year as well, so 11-1 in there. Los Angeles Rams. Lots of goodness. The defense is great. You're going to have, I think the run game is going to be a little bit better. I think Allen Robinson is better than Robert Wood. So I think that's an upgrade as well. And they still may bring in Odell Beckham Jr., on the cheap. And if that's those 3 with Higbee and with Van Jefferson, I mean, Matthew Stafford in year 2 with Sean McVay, you got to think like there's going to be improvements with the offense. I don't see a Super Bowl hangover. This team is legit, and the NFC is absolutely just completely wide open after those 3 top dogs with the Rams, the Bucks, and the Packers. So they're going to pile up some wins. But just looking at their schedule is tough. It's tough. We're going to stick with the Rams. We're going to break, come back, and take a look at some of their offensive weapons. Cooper Kupp, number 2 ADP. Jonathan Taylor, Cooper Kupp. How's Robinson going to look? Where's he going in drafts? Is it a fair price? Matthew Stafford kind of gets disrespected. I believe he did get disrespected last year, and he's, I think a pretty good value this year as well. So a little bit more Rams talk here on Mean Streets. Keep it locked. Welcome back in. You can tell I'm a little rusty. I'm rambling. I thought we actually had just like one more segment. We actually have 2. So we'll keep this one a little bit shorter. We'll kind of splice them together. But the Rams fantasy football targets here, where these guys are going. We'll take a quick look at round 5 NFFC drafts in the next block here. So Matthew Stafford, quarterback 9 off the board. I think this is pretty solid, on average here for Matthew Stafford. I just mentioned in the last block the addition of Allen Robinson here and Cooper Kupp, right? I mean, Cooper Kupp is just unguardable. You can say what you want. The teams are going to adjust when it comes to Cooper Kupp. But yeah, I mean, good luck, right? The guy just runs terrific routes. I like where what am I going to say? Oh, I like where he's going wide receiver 1. I do. I would still pick Jonathan Taylor over him. I'm just a sucker for running backs. I think, not a huge sucker for them. There's some running backs, when we get into some other teams, and we already talked about round 1, round 2. I do have some concerns about like Derrick Henry and CMC. I like Najee Harris. Dalvin Cook, I'm a little on the fence with. I do like Leonard Fournette. I think Saquon could have a nice bounce back. He's going outside the top 10, but Jonathan Taylor is like just a true bell cow, and I have no problem taking him. I don't think you're in the wrong, though, if you want to take Cooper Kupp first overall, especially in a PPR league. You got Darrell Henderson, Kyron Williams in there, who is dealing with a broken foot, but he is going to be ready to go training camp. The Rams did draft him in this recent NFL draft. Allen Robinson is wide receiver 25, ADP 62. So this is just the last 6 weeks of NFFC drafts, high stakes leagues, people putting their money on the line. Starting to see Allen Robinson, move up slightly. I think this is a really fair price. Van Jefferson, wide receiver 64, ADP 161. Tyler Higbee, tight end 20, ADP 162. I have no interest in Higbee. Jefferson, I guess, is like a guy just to have on your roster in the last round or something. There's certainly some upside, but not great news for him moving forward. Bringing in Allen Robinson and potentially Odell Beckham Jr. That would really hurt Van Jefferson as well. He's just a deep threat guy, and I like him a lot, but an injury would have to happen for him to be kind of fantasy relevant. For Allen Robinson, though, this guy was a top 10 wide receiver in each of the previous 2 seasons before last year. I mentioned the coaching issues, some injuries, contract, issues with him as well. And then just the fact that he's going to play with his best quarterback, Matthew Stafford. There was a season with the Jags where he had 14 touchdowns, 12 or 14. He's not going to be a 150 target guy. If you go look at those, 2019, 2020, 154 targets, 151 targets, 98 grabs, 102 grabs. He had 1,147 yards in one season, 1,250 in another season. I'd say he's more like a 900, 950 yard guy, and probably a guy that's going to flirt with double-digit touchdowns. That's it. Double-digit touchdowns, certainly in the realm of possibilities for Allen Robinson. I like where he's going. I'm a big fan. I wouldn't take too much stock into last year, even though he's, at the 30 age now. Akers, RB15, Henderson, RB45. So I like where Henderson is going. Keep in mind, he's a little fragile. He's dealt with some injuries. He's already dealing with some soft tissue stuff. It's very, very early. Cam Akers, say what you want about him not being super, super efficient, but he got a lot of touches and he got a lot of usage, and I do believe he is going to be the lead. Sony Michel is no longer around there. He is going to be the guy to get a lot of the work out of the backfield, and I think he's a really good back. Some of the metrics do favor Darrell Henderson, but I believe that Akers will have the lead, and I like where he's going to RB15. But that said, I do like taking a shot in around RB50 for Henderson, for a guy who could fall into a larger role. If anything happens to Akers' Achilles or an injury, it could be the Henderson show there as well. One more break. We won't get into round 6 of round 5 of the NFFC drafts. We'll take we'll put that on hold until tomorrow. George really wants me to play something for you guys. It was a memory of mine on Facebook that I saw from 11 years ago. So we are going to break, and we are going to play that on the way out of Mean Streets. You may want to stick around. I don't know. It's pretty comical. We'll see you in a few. So I can't believe I agreed to this. No, it's jokes. About 11 years ago, I was working at K-Rock, New Cap radio station before I moved over to Toronto. I met the fine people over at Anthem Sports and Entertainment. Glennie Mack, you may get a lot of enjoyment out of this. I was just hanging out live on location, asking people to, come down, and they had an opportunity to try out for Nova Scotia tourism commercial. They could just get on the camera and say whatever they wanted to say. So I hung out there for like 8 hours, and I just heard I didn't hear anything spectacular, and I was like, you know what, maybe I'm just going to try out here. I just talked about wine, a lot of nice wineries around Nova Scotia, beautiful scenery, and also the golf course is like fantastic, of course. And I won the audition, so they asked me to write a commercial and shoot the commercial at Kenwell, one of our best golf courses in Nova Scotia. And I did, and I was just kind of in the kitchen one day cooking supper, and I heard it, and it was pretty cool. So the memory was this past week, and it happened 11 years ago, kind of like this week. So here it is, Nova Scotia tourism commercial. You can roll it. And we're out of here. We'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.
Hi, I'm Chris from Greenwood, and this is My Nova Scotia. Enjoy amazing live music around Halifax at the TD Halifax Jazz Festival, July 8th to the 16th. From July 17th to the 24th, it's the Halifax Pride Festival. And if you're like me, you can never get enough golf. It's the best way to see some of Nova Scotia's most beautiful scenery. Visit novascotia.com to plan your vacation. Our greens are awesome. So when are you coming?